Real quick before the video starts, subscribe and like. Yeah, that's all I got. I don't really have an intro. Let's just get into the hot takes. Curry is a better floor raiser than Westbrook. In fact, there ain't any such thing as a floor raiser slash ceiling raiser. 99 teams out of 100 would be better with Curry. Well, I agree and disagree. See, really, the argument of floor raiser is like, even though I think Curry makes his teammates far better than Westbrook makes his teammates, the overall winning production increases with Westbrook rather than Curry. Like, the ability to carry an otherwise poor roster. Meanwhile, Steph, I think, has made his teammates this year better, and I think despite all the idiocy that some of his teammates, talking about you, Kelly Oubre, have shown this year, I think Curry makes those teammates better. Meanwhile, Westbrook is just more able to, like, take over and completely carry a team. Not saying Curry can't do that, but he also has this passive mindset sometimes that frustrates me, but it's not something you really see with Russell Westbrook back in 2017. So I would still argue that Russ is a better floor raiser, and it's also a little bit counterproductive to say, or not counterproductive, hypocritical, whatever the word would be. Curry is a better floor raiser than Westbrook, and then immediately say there's no such thing as a floor slash ceiling raiser. So those are two, what's the word I'm looking for? Contradict. Ding, ding, ding. Contradict. No contending team should be wanting Andre Drummond. Yep, that's pretty much. I'm kind of waiting for Andre Drummond to go to a contending team so that he can be exposed as Hassan Whiteside with a bigger ego. Ben Simmons is better than Jayson Tatum and Brandon Ingram. He is better than Brandon Ingram. He's not better than Jayson Tatum. That's pretty much all I gotta say. I mean, as much as Ben Simmons is great at the all-around stuff, at the end of the day, scoring and floor spacing are the two most important elements of basketball right now, and Ben Simmons is bad at both of those things. Even though he has a far better all-around game than Jayson Tatum is a lethal, very efficient 28-point-per-game scorer, so he wins that conversation. I know Rudy's going to have a fit about that one. Wendell has been the Bulls' second best player, and Bulls fans, even after we went 4-7 without him against much easier teams and now 8-9 with him, are still underrating how good he can be. Man can facilitate and raise our offense to another level with his mid-range and interior play. Wendell has not been the Bulls' second best player this year. That title goes to Thaddeus Young, but he is, for the most part, that when he actually plays. Like, Thaddeus Young just kind of was filling in for Wendell, and either way, I think when both are on the court, it's relatively close because Thad Young has been great this year. But Wendell, I'm less interested in his offensive elevation of the team because I don't think it's that significant. His mid-range shooting is nice, but a big who does catch and shoot mid-range shots only does so much for your team winning-wise. But his defense is really important to this team, and being a better interior presence. I know I'm saying this right after Embiid drops 50 on him, but Wendell is a really good defensive player, and the defense is a lot worse without him. Even though the defense still has not been great with him this year, he is definitely improving the defense quite a bit. And as he mentioned, the record with Wendell, I can just tell you right now, the Bulls are much better when he is on the floor, period. Jokic is significantly better on offense than AD, and I think they are interchangeable when it comes to who's better. I wouldn't say significantly better. The argument I would make for Jokic over AD is just as simply you can build an entire offensive system around the existence of Jokic. Meanwhile, AD is less like impact on the overall team, really just he's a great scorer who's not going to really improve his teammates on offense all that much. I will say, though, the difference in defense is more significant to me than the difference in offense, and because for the center position, or at least big man position, because Anthony Davis refuses to play center for the most part, in general, defense is the most important element of playing that position, and Jokic is so good on offense that he well exceeds that limitation, but because Anthony Davis does not have that limitation, that's why I still have Anthony Davis over Jokic. The Porzingis trade is now a neutral trade, whereas before it was a steal for the Mavericks. Yeah, pretty much. Porzingis has been incredibly disappointing, often injured, not that great when he's healthy. I mean, we were talking about this guy as a future superstar a couple of years ago, and I mean, he was an all-star in his third season, and here we are now, and he's like an decently efficient 18 points, refuses to be a big man, injured all the time. Meanwhile, the Knicks got Emmanuel quickly out of the equation. I think somebody else important, if I'm remembering correctly. I mean, they traded Dennis Smith for Derrick Rose. They also got a pick this year that's probably going to be good if the Mavericks continue at this rate. So yeah, I think this is a neutral trade thus far. Harrison Barnes is one of the most underrated players in the league, 16, 6, and 3 on 61.5% true shooting, and he has basically no holes in his game. He gets disrespected because he is on a bad contract, but he is one of the best role players in the league. I mean, I would make the argument that Harrison Barnes isn't even really on a bad contract. I mean, this year he makes 22, next year 20, and the year after that 18. I mean, for a really good starter, like $20 million per year is not a bad price. It's probably a little bit more than he's worth, but I'm not going to be labeling Harrison Barnes as a player with a bad contract. Of course, when he initially got it, people thought that, but Harrison Barnes has been really good, and I don't think he's overpaid by that much. And yeah, I do agree Harrison Barnes is one of the better role players in the NBA. I mean, he can create his own shot. He's a good floor spacer. He's a good defensive player. I think he's very good for Sacramento, and I really don't think they should trade him. I see people talking about Sacramento trading him all the time, but I mean, if you have a good role player, hold on to him. You don't have much reason not to unless a trade for a better player comes along. Anthony Edwards is the consensus Rookie of the Year. No, but you are the consensus Idiot of the Year. Because, no. I'm sorry, he had a really nice dunk yesterday, but no. If Chris Paul had either a ring or an MVP, he would be considered the better point guard over Zeke. If you're not aware, Zeke is Isaiah Thomas, Pistons, not short. I already think that Chris Paul is a better all-time talent than Isaiah Thomas, and I think the majority of people who don't believe that stupid bullshit Chris Paul isn't clutch narrative or Chris Paul is a choker narrative. For anyone that doesn't believe that, which is I think most people, they would probably acknowledge that Chris Paul is more talented than Isaiah Thomas, but I put Isaiah Thomas higher all time because he has those 2 rings and he was the best player on 2 incredibly good teams that beat the Lakers in the finals. They beat MJ's Bulls. That's a very good Pistons team, and honestly, they should have three-peated if not for that Kareem bullshit foul late in, I believe it was a game 6 or 7. I think it was 7. I don't remember the exact context of that, but that was not a foul, and it should have been a three-peat for the Pistons, and it wasn't. But Isaiah Thomas is not the shooter that Chris Paul is, not the playmaker that Chris Paul is, not the defender that Chris Paul is, from mid-range or from 3, not that. He's probably about the same as a ball handler. I don't know what the numbers are. If I had to guess, I'd say he's probably a better finisher because Chris Paul's not a very great slasher just because he's not big and he was not like just a guy ruthlessly attacking the basket. He was more liable to pull up from mid-range. But other than the attacking the basket, Chris Paul is better across the board. But Isaiah Thomas, pretty close in talent-wise while having 2 championships. So got to give the edge to Zeke all time, but Chris Paul is a better talent. Better talent and better all-time ranking are not the same thing, just if you were not aware. Tim Duncan was the best all-around player of all time. I'm going to have to disagree with that. I would say he is one of the best two-way players of all time, and while Duncan was a pretty good playmaker for his position, I think just the playmaking not being as good as it could have been kind of holds him back from this conversation of like definitely like great all-around. Like the best all-around player of all time is LeBron James. I think that's pretty clear. I mean, probably one of the, I don't know, if I'm being a little conservative, one of the 10 greatest playmakers of all time, one of the 10 greatest scorers of all time, and probably at his peak at least, one of the 10 best perimeter defenders of all time. Also a great rebounder, although not that great relative to his position and size, but he gets the job done. I'd say LeBron's the best all-around player, but I believe Tim Duncan to be the greatest defensive player of all time. You could argue Bill Russell, and I wouldn't be mad at you. There's a couple of players you could argue and I wouldn't be mad at you, because the defense is not a thing that you can just easily point to a number and say, oh yeah, that's clearly that guy. But I do believe Tim Duncan, the best defensive player of all time, and then offensively, he could get you 22 a game on really good efficiency, and then also get like 4 assists per game, because he's a pretty good passer for a big at his peak we're talking about here. So yeah, Tim Duncan is a great all-around player, probably one of the 10 best all-around players of all time, but just because not an elite playmaker, I'm not going to quite give him the title of best all-around. But yeah, that was Hot Takes. Shout out to Rudy for editing this video, and that is the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.